Most people believe that illegal drugs are the most dangerous and that the law reflects the real risk. Alcohol is normal, tobacco is legal, psychedelics are treated as threats. But when scientists actually compared harm across substances, the results didn't match the story at all. In this video we look at what happens when evidence collides with ideology and which one wins. So if the most harmful drugs are legal, what is drug policy actually based on? Drugs and Addiction, an Anarchist Perspective, Dickie Dredd. Second time I've had a go at this one, so let's hope I get it right this time. This is part 41 in chapter 5 now, The Science, Scale and Lies. And we're on part 42, The Harm Scale and the Hierarchy of Truth. When Professor David Nutt published his 2009 study comparing the relative harms of drugs, he did more than present the data. He committed heresy. By ranking alcohol and tobacco above LSD, we'll look at the table in a bit by the way, ecstasy and cannabis, he managed the moral architecture of UK drug policy. In a culture where legality masquerades as virtue, Nutt's evidence was blasphemy against the state's preferred religion, the myth that sanctioned substances are safe and forbidden ones evil. His paper for The Lancet used a multi-criteria decision matrix to evaluate 20 substances against 16 indicators of harm, from physical damage and dependence to social cost. Alcohol scored highest overall, followed by heroin and crack cocaine. Tobacco sat mid-table, above LSD and psilocybin, both of which ranked among the least harmful. It was, in effect, an evidence-based redraft of the Misuse of Drugs Act. The establishment reacted not with debate but with excommunication. Within weeks, Nutt was dismissed as chair of the Advisory Council on the Misuse of Drugs for the sin of accuracy. That sacking exposed the hierarchy of truth underpinning the war on drugs. Science is tolerated only when it reinforces policy. Once it questions moral orthodoxy, it becomes subversion. Nutt's analysis revealed what many users had always known, that harm correlates less with chemistry than with economics. Alcohol and tobacco are lucrative industries with powerful lobbies. Psychedelics, associated with introspection and nonconformity, threaten neither profit nor productivity. Hence the paradox. Legal drugs that dull awareness are protected. Those that expand it are demonised. The fallout from Nutt's dismissal was instructive. Newspapers branded him reckless. Ministers accused him of sending mixed messages. In truth, his messages are simply that evidence should inform policy. The House of Commons Science and Technology Committee later vindicated him, concluding that the government's handling of the drug classification was politically motivated rather than scientifically grounded. Yet nothing changed. The data were absorbed, the hierarchy restored. Media framing plays a crucial role in maintaining this illusion. Danger is constructed not through measured risk, but through narrative emphasis. A single ecstasy-related death triggers national outrage. The 1,000 killed yearly by alcohol fade into normality. Same tabloids that moralise about killer pills run full paid adverts for lager. Harm in this landscape is not a medical category, but a moral one, defined by utility to the state and profitability to the market. When David Nutt returned to the subject a decade later, his conclusions were identical. The numbers had slightly shifted. The hierarchy had not. Alcohol remained the most harmful substance overall, more destructive to others than to the user, while psychedelics continued to occupy the safer end of the scale. His persistence is itself a kind of resistance, a refusal to let truth be silenced by orthodoxy. The harm scale thus functions as a mirror held up to society's contradictions. It exposes how law, media and medicine collude to protect familiar poisons and persecute unfamiliar insights. In a rational system, classification would follow evidence. In ours, evidence follows ideology. The true danger, as ever, is not the drug, but the story told about it. So we'll now look at the relative harms of the common substances, and the scale goes from 0 to 100, and that's where he's taken those 16 indicators and he's combined them to not just include the effect on the individual, such as health harm, psychological harm, and things like that, and addiction ability, but also social factors as well. For example, alcohol makes people violent in social situations, and blah blah blah. And here's the two references. The main reference was a paper that he published in the Lancet. That may be probably protected by a paywall, so you're much better off. You can get a copy of the book Drugs Without the Hot Air. Thoroughly recommend it. Really good read by David Nutt, where he summarises all this as well. Right, I'm going to have to tell you what's underneath there. I thought I deleted that. So if we look at the substances, and remember it's 0 to 100 scale. So and then we look at the status from the Misuse and Drugs Act. So alcohol is up there at the top. It's at scored as 72, and of course it's legal. Heroin, scored at 55, is Class A. Crack cocaine at 54. Class A. Methamphetamine 33, Class A. Cocaine in powder form 27, Class A. Tobacco 26 in the middle there, legal. Amphetamine 23, that's Class B. Now the star there means because it's actually Class A if it's prepared for injecting. Cannabis is 20. And that's Class B. Went down to Class C at one point, but went back up to Class B again. So benzodiazepines are prescription, and they're down at 15. Ecstasy, right down the bottom at 9. That's Class A. LSD and psilocybin are both Class A, and they're 7 and 6. So you can see 6 compared to 72, and that's the one that's a Class A, and the other one's legal. It's a fucking joke. So the issue was never simply the drugs themselves. It's how harm is defined, ranked and controlled. Once you can see that, drug policy starts to look less like science and more like system protecting certain substances, industries and behaviours. So if harm isn't what determines legality, what is? The next video will look at how these narratives are built and why they're so hard to challenge. So next up is, still in chapter 5, Science, Scale and Lies, is part 43, The Manufacture of Ignorance, Funding, Pharma and Fear.